cerebral about these things a little bit too.
Yeah.
When you have a murder case, that's cold. There's a lot of problems, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have hard DNA evidence, if you don't have a videotape, if you don't have some eyewitness, okay, I almost don't care what you have. You could have someone come forward and go, I saw OJ and Charlie murder those two people. Guess what the defense attorneys are going to do? Discredit that person up and down. Who are you? Are you an investigator? Why didn't you come forward? They're going to shred everything. You could have shoe prints, a hat. You have Charlie's hat in the Bronco. You could have that. You could have his bloody shoe prints. How do you know they're his shoes? Does he still have them? Did he wear them at the murder? Somebody else took my shoes.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot of watching this trial, especially. This is kind of the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
I've watched other trials. I've researched a lot of other murder cases. You see this a lot. Okay. I had a case, I looked at a case in Miami of a guy who was on tape murdering 3 people. On tape. He took his mask off in front of the camera like this. He didn't know there was a camera in the house.
Wow.
And he got off.
Holy shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody talked to me about evidence.
Yeah.
We look to God, right?
Yeah.
Did they do it or not? It doesn't matter if they went to jail or not. Doesn't matter if the cops, I don't care what the cops say. Oh, well, the cops didn't arrest them. Oh, the cops don't arrest a lot of people. There's 2,000 unsolved murder cases in LA. Why don't you go tell all the families of those people, their kids, their brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, go tell them it didn't happen. And that guy didn't kill him because the cops said so.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I can,
wild,
still get off, like being on camera as well.
That guy, yeah, that case is pretty crazy. You can look it up. It's called the Butch Sukarski murder, Casey's Nickelodeon murders. So, I mean, yeah, that's why when people, I deal with a lot of reporters, I deal with a lot of investigators, PIs, cops. I do federal cases too with FBI. And people always, what's the evidence? What's the evidence? Stop. There's no such thing as evidence. There really isn't. And I know that sounds crazy. OJ Simpson's blood was mixed with the victim's blood together in his Bronco. Did he get off? Yes. So just exactly, like just kind of open your heart and open your mind. See it for what it is. Look at the psychology. And if you have a string of coincidences, like OJ was there, his shoe print's there, that's his shoe, size 12. His blood's there, his DNA is dripping from his left finger next to his shoes. Use the coincidences.
Yep.
Sometimes you can't have what you call fact. You don't know. These defense attorneys are brilliant. They can put doubt in anything. I've seen it. I've seen them do it. That's why they call them the dream team.
Yeah.
You had the best attorneys in the country all on the same team. F. Lee Bailey, Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, Barry Scheck, Peter Neufeld, Sean Hawley, Gerard Ullman, Dershowitz. They're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Carl Douglas. They'll never be that again. That's why they call them the dream team.
Yeah. How did they assemble such a strong team then, just for that? Like, it doesn't seem like they do that for anyone else.
Robert Shapiro began it, and there was actually another lawyer first, Howard Weitzman.
Okay.
Now there's rumors that he got kicked off the case, but Howard Weitzman, he died. But he would tell you, I walked away because once he figured out, he saw the evidence coming in and he ditched OJ. I have something else about a famous studio exec that helped OJ Simpson get Robert Shapiro, who knew Joey and Charlie. And I'm not going to say his name today because it's pretty bombshell, but if someone wants to talk to me, my email, investigatorla19@gmail.com, investigatorla19@gmail.com. But, and you can connect people to me, of course.
Yeah.
So Robert Shapiro he's the first one to come on I think it's on the 13th at night. It's almost on the 14th. And he starts to assemble Pat McKenna, Tom McNally, the investigators. He's already getting on Henry Lee, Dr. Henry Lee from Connecticut. Okay, the forensic pathologist, expert in the world. He starts to get Michael Baden. Okay, and then Cochran comes on a little later, because when they figure we need an African-American attorney to get Cochran, that brings Carl Douglas. They merge into it. You see, there's a lot of information about how he assembles them. I think he had Gerard Yeoman early on, actually. So, but Bob Shapiro, and they bring Barry Schecht and Peter Neufeld, and they do DNA stuff in Innocence Project. They have the Innocence Project, and they were doing stuff before. So Robert Shapiro assembles this team.
Wow. It's pretty amazing stuff, back then, to be so coordinated with it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, man. There's a mountain of evidence. There's a trial that went over 10 months long.
Yeah.
For you to watch the whole trial, it would take you 10 months watching 8 hours a day, every day. So just think about the research that I had to do on this.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen every minute of the trial. You can't. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's interesting that I didn't know that about his first lawyer, walked away from the case.
Yeah, Howard Weitzman. Yeah, because he started to see the evidence. And I have other sources too that are saying he got kicked off.
Yeah.
Because they needed, this was such a monster. And they liked Shapiro, the studio exec knew who he was, kind of cold called him. He actually also cold called OJ Simpson and said, I want to help you.
Wow.
And OJ had no idea who he was. The reason is because the guy was a mobbed up guy. He had heavy mob connections, and he personally knew Charlie and Joey.
Yeah.
And he had to step in. The guy was super slick, man. I'm not going to say who he is. He was a wealthy guy. He discovered very famous people. He died, dropped dead in 2007 in December. He just dropped dead. And they talk about him. If you look up the OJ on FX series and you type in New Revelations or American Crime Story, OJ Simpson, New Revelations, things they couldn't reveal, they talk about this guy. So I'll let your audience do some homework.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. And what's Charlie doing today after all this?
Charlie runs a strip club in Miami.
Yeah. Wow, so he's back in that world still.
A lot of those guys he gambles too. I think he races horses, and a lot of those guys can never get away from it. They were born into the mafia. That's what the screenplay and the confession tells you. They're born into it. Their fathers and their uncles and their stepdads. And let me put it to you this way. At 20 years old, you don't have high-level cocaine connections in Colombia being a nobody.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't. At 20 years old, think about that. That's how old Charlie was when he went to Colombia.
Wow.
And made a huge connection for 6 months. It's in here. It's all laid out in here. It tells you the whole story. So you have to be kind of initiated into the family, into the system.
Yeah.
Okay. Joey was the same way. Joey's dad was a famous mobster. Joey Ippolito Sr. worked for Sam the Plumber, De Cavalcante. Okay. They're great stories. There's a lot of mysticism. There's a lot of, this, you had on a couple mob guys.
Yeah.
People love it. I'm not here to slash and burn the mob guys. Okay. I think they all should come together. Let's go make some money.
Yeah.
Make a movie, tell a story, tell the story, let the people know they have a right to know and need to know. And the people who need to be really blasted are the media, the Hollywood media.
Yeah, for sure.
That's who's to blame. Yeah.
And they'd have an epic story. I'm sure that screenplay is going to be nuts.
They can't move it. It's never been made. It's 5 years old. I mean, could they make it someday? There's a lot of press and media right now about Charlie. There's a lawsuit. We have this thing going in Miami. There's other sources came forward. People close to Kato Kalin, people close to Faye Resnick, to Nicole. They're coming forward. We kind of lit the brush fire, but I don't know if they'll ever make a movie. I know a guy who's close to this whole thing says he thinks they will.
Yeah.
He thinks they will eventually do it. Yeah.
I think it'll happen if more and more people start, finding out about this, and I think it's got to happen.
Yeah, I just know how Hollywood is. I know how the media is. They block stories, they discriminate against people, they censor people, and a lot of people have to tell